What's up, gang? Fish Like Me 8. Yesterday, all about fishing your strengths, why you need to have that technique in your back pocket that you can just pull out at any time and bail yourself out on a really tough day. Now let's talk about when to put something down and not break it out of your tackle box, not tie it back on. Cut it off and leave it alone. And here's the deal with most lakes. There's going to be a few techniques, a few patterns that always tend to work certain times of year when the lake is fishing normal. For instance, Guntersville in the spring, red is a really big deal. There's some highland reservoirs that it seems like a jig always tends to win. Some lakes set up really good for the Alabama rig. Some lakes, you need to be throwing a Carolina rig, or at least try it sometime throughout your practice. And the only conclusion I can draw from that is there's something about these baits and these techniques that just mimic the forage really well on these lakes. But let's say you come to Guntersville and you have something red tied on and you're throwing it and throwing it and throwing it and you can't get bit. Well, the obvious thing would be to change colors. The obvious thing would be to try something else, right? Well, let's say the week unfolds and it gets dominated by red. Everyone catches them on the red bait. And this is just a specific instance. It could be the same thing with a Carolina rig. It could be the same thing with this certain bait in this certain region of the country. Tends to always do well. You're firing it out on the lake. You keep throwing it and throwing and throwing. You're not getting bit. When do you decide that this isn't going to work? And this could still possibly work. I need to keep trying it, or I at least need to keep it on the deck. And I will tell you, for me, there's a reason why you look at some of the best pros out there and they have 15 to 20 rods on their deck the day of the tournament, because you sometimes just get that weird feeling in your gut, that instinct, your intuition takes over and says, dude, you need to go throw that red bait right now. This is the time. And there will be certain instances on the lake where, maybe there hasn't been any rain in a month and the water's a lot clearer than the normal. Maybe it's had a lot of rain and the water's a lot dirtier than normal. There's little things like that where those popular baits that tend to win tournaments on those specific lakes, they just don't work. And sometimes they work. And sometimes it can all happen within just a week or in a couple days where they weren't biting that at all, and then the tournament rolls around and you start catching them on that. So for my experience, I want you to keep an open mind always when you get on the lake. Just because you wore the paint off something for a day or two, throwing it and throwing it and throwing it, doesn't mean that it might not turn on in a few days. That's the cool thing about fishing. It's forever changing. You never know what can happen the next day, and you've got to keep an open mind. Try that, guys, and I'll see you out on the water.